Hallelujah, Christ is risen. Oh, that is in your bones and muscles. That was really great. And I know it's really strange to invite the Easter acclamation on this first Sunday of the season of creation, but I do so as a reminder about the whole arc of our entire liturgical year. From Advent and Christmas through Epiphany, Lent, and Easter, and of course, Pentecost, that whole arc points to what we are doing in this 5-week season of creation. We are celebrating explicitly and directly God's deep embrace of God's own creation. We might also say even more, God's solidarity with everything God has made, to the point of dying with it and then raising it to new life. This arc of hope resonates beautifully with the theme of this first Sunday of the season of creation, with ocean. Life itself began in the oceans of this planet. And it's the oceans that continue to sustain life on Earth. I learned just recently, to my astonishment, that the oceans actually generate more oxygen for Earth than all of the planet's forests. And it's the oceans that are now signaling so clearly and poignantly the need for new life. As you may have read in the news recently, one of those signals is now coming urgently from blue whales. So I did a little bit of research, and I was astonished to learn that blue whales are not only the largest marine mammals on Earth, and they are not only the largest mammals anywhere on Earth, whether land or sea, they are also larger than any of the dinosaurs ever were. They are often at least 100 feet long, if not longer, and they weigh at least 200 tons. The words, adjectives like spectacular and magnificent, are not overstatements for these creatures of God. Now, blue whales also have a captivating song choir. They have a captivating song that you can listen to. Researchers have recorded it. You can look it up on YouTube, other places online. I actually urge you and encourage you to do so later this afternoon or this week. Listen to this song. That's what's been in the news recently, because blue whales all over the planet have stopped singing. These whales sing when there's food and when their habitat is comfortable and when they're ready to mate. These giant creatures of the sea sing when they are happy. And they have now stopped singing. These magnificent and spectacular creatures of God have stopped singing because algae blooms due to climate change have nearly erased their entire food source. And because ocean waters are now so uncomfortably warm due to climate change, you may have seen once again this year the coastal waters around Florida are the temperature of our hot tubs, over 100 degrees. And they've stopped singing because all of these conditions are not suitable for raising offspring. Blue whales no longer feel at home in the oceans where God put them. I can scarcely think of anything more poignant and sad than that, when God's own creatures stop singing. Now, I want to be really clear that our worship during this season of creation is not meant to be a catalog of disasters. That is not why we're here. To the contrary, our worship in this season of creation should remind us of the breathtaking handiwork of God in a way that then inspires us in fresh ways to become advocates and agents of healing in the world. The vitality of God's creation appears especially these days in its resilience. I love that word, resilience. After all the damage Earth has endured at our hands, Earth can heal. Ecosystems can renew, and we know this because of what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you remember? So global traffic stopped, and industry ceased, and most people just stayed inside. And suddenly Earth started to heal all over the planet. It was almost like overnight. Do you remember how astonishing that was? So even as we grieve for whales who are no longer singing, I invite us this morning to remember the healing power of God residing deep in the sinews of earth, which can teach the whales a new song. The ancient writer of the book of Job draws our attention exactly there. Thank you for reading it so beautifully this morning, Steve. I think you got the tone of voice of God exactly right. Most people read the book of Job as this extended explanation of human suffering, and a really bad explanation. And for good reason, there's a lot of that in there. But really, the focus of this ancient writer is on the infinitely mysterious presence of Creator God all around us that far exceeds our ability to comprehend. I love the image in Robert Alter's translation of that passage this morning when God asks Job and his friends, "Have you walked on the seabeds lately?" The divine presence in earth herself can once again activate healing energy for this planet, which we only briefly glimpsed during the pandemic, but we will have to change dramatically the way we live. We cannot just recycle our way out of the climate crisis. I don't like saying that out loud. But perhaps you've also seen in the news Most of our recycling is actually shipped off of our shores and dumped in the ocean. We have to change our expectations about the use of energy and where energy comes from and how we travel and whether we travel and how food is produced and what kind of food we eat and how we interact with the oceans of earth from which life first emerged on this planet and which now continues to sustain our life right now. We must care for earth like earth is our home, because it is. And not just our home, but a home we share with all other creatures of the same God. You have heard me say this before. It's really worth repeating in this season of creation. Christian faith is not an escape hatch from earth to some disembodied place called heaven. That notion has wriggled its way into Christian traditions, especially in the modern period, and that notion is not at home in Christian faith. As we heard from the letter to the Ephesians this morning, in this wonderful First Nations version, Christ is the sign and symbol of earth and heaven united as one, the home where God planted us and where God dwells with us. Christian faith is not an anticipation of going to heaven. Christian faith is an invitation to find heaven on earth and to live more fully as the creatures God has made us to be on this precious earth. A place where heaven is found along every river and around every dune, behind every tree. It's an invitation to live with a profound reverence for the presence of God everywhere around us. An active reverence that stands in awe of divine abundance. That's one of the key signs of God's presence: fecundity and fertility and fruitfulness and apparently alliteration. I love alliteration. All the abundance of life on earth. And I think that's what Luke wants us to see in this story, this familiar story. I hope you heard it in fresh ways this morning in the First Nations translation. And especially Luke wants us to see Peter's response to encountering divine abundance. Catching a bunch of fish where there had been no fish is not just about lots of fish. This kind of abundance, this abundance is full of life and vitality, and the excessive catch of fish, the ridiculously excessive catch of fish, the fish that sink the canoes, that abundance is supposed to banish once and for all our fear of scarcity. Embedded in this ancient text is this profound insight that at the root of so much human violence and conflict is this deep fear that there's not enough. Not enough land, not enough resources, not enough money, not enough food. That's a lie of the evil one to keep us fighting each other. And here Luke's Jesus is showing Peter that you never have to be afraid of scarcity again. And so Peter, encountering this amazing material vitality right in front of him, falls to his knees, overwhelmed by his own smallness. Stand up, Jesus says. Stand up, Peter. You are the beloved of God. And you have important work to do to bring God's realm fully on earth. Friends, God is calling us to important work, for which neither despair nor optimism will suffice, but only a lively hopefulness, a truly active hope that trusts the presence of God's own Spirit of life planted deeply in every clump of dirt. I'm so tempted to invite us to all stand up, go outside and just dig our hands in the dirt. This active hope that God's own Spirit of life is present everywhere, every root system, every bird's nest, and on the crest of every ocean wave. This is actually our Eucharistic life. As Christians, we come to this table every week. We remember the suffering of Jesus and his death, and we proclaim the hope of new life. And this morning, we're remembering that blue whales are not singing. And we proclaim with hope that God can still teach them a new song with new life. So, hallelujah, friends. Christ is risen.